Foster. Today we're going to do an introductory video on reading, and I'm going to start this reading at the basic level so that you can help your child to prepare for reading when they go to school. With this video, it is important that you realise it is only an introduction and that the other videos will support the level of information that we're providing today. Let's begin with a little bit of theory about reading and about the three areas of reading that we need to know about and that are integrated when a child is trying to read. I think we underestimate the level of complexity that a child has to deal with when learning to read. Now, if we look at all their life experiences that they have before they begin to read, we can enrich reading by adding to those experiences. Because can you imagine a child going to read a book about the beach and not knowing anything about the beach? It would make it so difficult. It would be like me trying to read a medical journal without the information or the knowledge about the human body. So it's really important that we provide experiences for children so that they learn lots and lots about the world that we live in. The second thing that's really important is that we develop their oral language. Now, that means the way they talk, the words that they use, the vocabulary, and also what they understand when you are speaking to them or other people are speaking to them. So that's the basis of learning to read. That's the foundation. Then above that we have the three areas of reading. We have meaning, and if a child hasn't had those experiences with language, they'll find meaning within the reading context difficult. So meaning is very important. Phonics, which is the sounding system that we use within our language, our English language, and knowing the sounds that contribute to reading is very important. And sounding is at many different levels too. So for today, we'll be only looking at the basic level of sounding. And then we have grammar, or syntax as it is called. Grammar is the order of sentences. So naturally, through oral language, your child would unconsciously know that the word the would come before a noun, or a naming word as they would call it, and that if you left out a word in language, they would be able to put in the right grammatical word. So for instance, if I said to you, the dog at the cat, the child would know that the word was barked. They don't necessarily have to know that it's a doing word, but they know that that word would fit in there. Now they're using both meaning and the grammar of the word, and also they're using the phonics because they use the first sound of that word. So those three areas integrate, and in this circle here that I've provided for you, you can see the area where they interrelate. So it's very important that you have that knowledge so that you can help your child integrate all these levels in reading. You could liken it to driving a car. If you can't do the gears automatically and you can't use the clutch and the brake and do the steering automatically, you won't be able to look out for the traffic on the road. It's the same with reading. If you don't know all these basic skills of reading, you won't be able to comprehend the text. And comprehension is what reading is all about. Okay, well, let's move on to the next level. We're going to provide you with basic skills, generalised basic skills that a child needs to know before they come to school and learn to read formally. So in bed, when you're reading a storybook to your child, or on the couch or wherever you are, you will have a book this size showing your child. I'm going to show you through a big book because it's easier to see the strategies that I'm using to help you. Now, the first thing that a child needs to know is the front of the book. So I have put in a script in with this package so that you can check off the skills that your child does know, and you can teach these very informally while you're reading to your child in bed of a night time. So the front of the book, having the child know that this is where you know what the book is going to be about. You look at the picture and you can tell them the title, and this is the front of the book. The back of the book, what it looks like, there's nothing on this book. Sometimes you have an extended picture on the back, or you have an index, or you have all sorts of things on backs of books. And then this here is the spine of the book. So they need to know the front, the back and the spine. Now you can start this from about 18 months old. So then teaching them that you go from one page to the next page. You turn the pages, and that you don't clump a whole lot of pages together like this. And if you watch little children, they often clump that and turn over all of those pages. So what you have to do is teach them that one page follows another. And then they need to know that as you're turning, you read the left page before you read the right page. So you turn over and you read the left page before you read the right page. The next thing that we need to teach them is that the pictures tell us about the print, and that they can point to the print as being separate from the picture. So if you said, show me where I read the story, they would point up here and show me where the picture are. So they need to distinguish between the print and the picture. Now they're very, very basic skills, and even though they're very basic, we still find some children coming to school not knowing how to read a book. Okay, now then when they start to read, we have to teach them that you start over here on the left and you run your finger along here, then you sweep down onto the next level of words, then down onto the next level of words. Then you go to the next page, there's nothing written there. Now this time the print is at the bottom of the page. So you start at the left, and so as you can see, it's very, very important that children know left to right, because we're going from left to right, then we're sweeping back and coming under the next sentence. Once they've got that skill, you can actually teach them to point to a word as it comes out of your mouth. Now this is quite difficult because a word as it comes out of your mouth is very nebulous, and what I mean by that, it isn't concrete, but there's a lot around this concept of word that we have to teach children. And if I gave you some idea of what is a word, you'd see the largeness or the humongous size of the concept. So a word is something that can come out of our mouth. It is something that can be printed. It is something, it's a noise that comes out of our mouth. The length of the word that comes out of our mouth corresponds with the length of the word in print. So children need to know what's a long word and what is a short word. Then we need to know that words tell all sorts of things. They can tell the name of a person, an animal, place or thing. They can be a doing word, or they can be a word that describes, and there are all sorts of other words as well. So knowing that basic information is really, really important. When we put words into sentences, we need to know that the words are cut up with spaces. So we have a space between the words so that we can say the words and see them separated from every other word on the page. Also, when we speak, we have a space between our words because people wouldn't be able to understand us. Everything would be jumbled together. So this leads us on to the idea that we can point to one word at a time. So here we have Mr. Bigelow is a bus driver. You have to encourage the child to point to the word. He doesn't have to know the word, but just point to the word as you're speaking. Now, within this package, there will be a lot of games to encourage your child to learn what a word is. But that's the basic skill. Even if you had some words written down on a piece of paper or in a magazine, you could circle the words. Then you could talk about how some words are long, some words are short. Then talk about the space that is in between. Another way to help children do this is if you say words and you have them tap with their finger as you say the words. Mr. Bigelow is a bus driver. Now, there's more to this than meets the eye, isn't there? And I think you're starting to realise that it's quite a complex system when we begin to read. The next thing that they need to know is the first and the last letters in words, or where do I start firstly? So first is a really big concept that children need to learn. So you could do it in many different ways. You could say the driver is the first man sitting in the bus. You can look up here and you can say that is the first letter of that word. This is the first letter. This is the first letter. And continuously do this in your day-to-day life. I have lots of activities in the script that will help you in this area. Now then, looking at the last letter or the last word in the sentence. They're great concepts to teach your child and to make sure they're consolidated. I've seen children in grade 6 and 7 still not being able to decipher what is the first and the last word. What I'm going to talk about now is just looking at the text and helping your child to identify a few little things that are really major when you come to read. So here we have a full stop, and that tells us that we've got to stop reading for a little while and catch your breath. Here we have another one. So your child can actually point out the full stops for you. And don't try and get your child to know all of this at once. I would do this in stages. Here we have a question mark. So get your child used to recognising questions in your oral language and then recognising them in the printed word. So asking a question, you normally have an answer following that, and they would know that probably, but it's just raising the awareness. Here we have talking marks that show us that somebody is talking, and it stands out markedly in books this size where you can actually see the marks, and we say talking marks because it's someone talking, and we try to use as much informal language as we can at this level of reading. This is pre-coming to school. If you want your child to learn the next little step, you can say, righto, put your hands around the words that the man is saying, so they can put their hands around the words. Okay, now our next little section that we're going to go on with is interpreting pictures, and I'm just going to do this with you with this front page here so that you can have your child interpreting pictures or deciphering pictures really well before they come to school. Now with children, we sometimes go a little bit quickly, far too quickly with this, and I think we have to remember that they come from playing with concrete materials to this sort of pictorial information, which can sometimes be difficult, and then we're going from this pictorial information to the symbolic, which is really quite abstract. So if you move them gently or slowly from the concrete into the pictorial, you'll get a greater response. Okay, looking at this picture, I can see that it's got a top and it's got a bottom and it's got a middle. And if we use this information to build the basis for later comprehension. So here in the front of the picture, or the foreground it's called of the picture, we have the main idea of the picture, which is all of these people lining up for something. Now, if we look in front of them at the sign in front of the man, we can see that they're at the bus stop. They're waiting for a bus, and most children will recognise that sign as a bus stop. That's actually the beginnings of print awareness. All of this information is building on the comprehension that the children will need later. Who is in the story? All of these people here. Where is it happening? When is it happening? What are they doing? That's inference. So it's higher level thinking. But if you can do it at this level, you can be assured your children will understand as they get along further. That's the first part of understanding pictures, and then you can concentrate on one picture in each book as you go along to make sure their interpretation is adequate.